Good morning, everyone. This is Katie Novotny calling in from Premier Marketing. Thank you for joining us this morning. So today we're going to talk about some different ideas regarding long-term care solutions. As most of you know, there have been long-term care hybrids or long-term care life insurance or however combo products that we want to talk about for years. But I think that this is a great idea to really look at a different perspective, maybe some different ways to go back to your clients, a reason to reach out and say, hey, I know we've talked about long-term care planning, but there are a variety of solutions, and I think that this today is going to show us how really we can capitalize on the opportunity. So today we have Brent DeGroot of One America. Brent is going to go through some of our ideas, and as we go through, if there's any questions, please feel free to type them in, and we will do a full Q&A at the end of the program. So with that, Brent, you ready to take it away?
I sure am. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, Katie. And thank you to Premier for having me. And thank you to everybody for coming out this morning. I know your time is very valuable, so we appreciate taking your valuable time. And Katie did a good job setting this up, but I really wanted to give you a couple resources that we have here at One America that I think can really help you plant the seed. Now, hopefully you've talked to your clients in the past about long-term care planning and maybe already planted that seed. But what I find so many times is advisors and insurance professionals get kind of locked into some of the normal things they do day in and day out, and typically don't want to deviate. And so if they're not focusing on offering long-term care, or really want a way to plant some seeds to really get your clients some information around planning for long-term care and the costs and the risks that are associated there, we've got some great tools here, and I really wanted to kind of share some of that today. And first and foremost, what you're seeing here on the screen is an interactive website that is designed specifically for consumers. What I like about this website that we've created here, you can see it does have our logo up here at the top, and kind of throughout here there's some pieces from this, but there's a lot of generic information on here as well. But first and foremost, when I wrap this whole thing up, I'm going to give you the website again, but it's basically just www.experiencecaresolutions.com. And you can, use this website or that link and just send it out to some of your clients maybe that you haven't worked with in the past. Maybe it's a way or a campaign that you wanted to do to maybe find some new clients that are out there. So these an email campaign or something like that just sends this out and said, hey, I just really wanted you to have some information around the risks and planning for long-term care expenses, either in retirement or possibly even before. And so really that's what this website really does. But I wanted to kind of walk through some of the steps, and then I'm going to go through another resource and a few other things. So thank you again for coming out. This is the home page. As you can see kind of down here, all this really is, like I said, it's interactive. So essentially what this does is to go through each one of these tabs. Certainly you can click on these and it'll pull it up, but it was really meant to just kind of scroll down and go through. So that's what I'm going to talk about here or take you through. So the first tab, as we scroll down here, it just talks to these clients about, what are their priorities for retirement? And obviously people are going to have different priorities, but each one of these then they can click on and it'll pull up just a new screen here. Maybe their priority is having more time with family. It's a great way to spend time in their retirement. But it always leaves a question here, but have you thought about how that could change if you had an unexpected health event? So their plans are, hey, I really want to hang out with family as much as possible, but all of a sudden now I've got a unrecognized or unknown health event that happens, and how would that affect those plans? So kind of the first one there that's available. Second one here, if we click on that, they want to make sure that they're retirement savings lasts. So they've been planning all their lives, saving, planning different things for their retirement, but they want to make sure that that income is there to fund all of their retirement needs. But again, the question at the very bottom is, have they thought about how their retirement income could be affected if they had an unexpected health event? If I go to the last one here, maybe it's spend more time with hobbies. As this one shows, maybe they like to garden or landscape. As a matter of fact, Katie and I were talking about that just before this presentation started. And so a lot of people like to spend their time in retirement working on their hobbies. Maybe it's golf. Maybe it's, playing pinochle or cards or any type of card game. Everybody has different hobbies. Maybe it's restoring old cars, whatever that may be. But again, could those be impacted if they had an unexpected health event? So again, just great information to pass along to consumers, get them thinking about their priorities and maybe what could happen to them should a long-term care event happen. Next up is did you know? So some good statistics that are out there, probably you've heard some of these. The first one here is that there's about a 70% chance if your client or these individuals are lucky enough to reach the age of 65, there is basically a 70% chance of them needing some form of long-term care services in their future. So, I think that's a fairly eye-opening or alarming stat there that, 70% of those that reach age 65 will need some form of care in their lifetimes. And then if we move to the second one, those that are requiring care, 20% of those will need care for 5 years or longer. And so that's really 20% of the 70% there, because we're talking about, those individuals who need care. But when we're talking about that, if you start to think about this 20% are going to need care for 5 years or longer, really what that's talking about is maybe dementia issues. Maybe it's Alzheimer's disease. Maybe it's Parkinson's. Some of those situations where this is not just a quick health event and you recover, or, that's really what their health insurance is for, more acute services. But really what this is talking about is long-term care needs, long-term care services, something that is not going to be recovered. They're going to live with for the rest of their lives. So what I always like to talk about with this 20% number is, gosh, when we're planning, what's the best way to plan for this? Is it to fall prey to the average trap, saying, well, the average need of care out there is 2.3 years for men and 3.7 years for women? Well, 20% of those are going to need care for 5 years or longer. So if you plan for the average and fall into that average trap, are you really setting them up for future success? Having the income needed for any of those expenditures that would happen in their retirement years or possibly even earlier? Probably not. So how do you choose? So let's say you just had, 5 clients and that's it. Your book of, obviously we all have more clients than that, but let's just say you had 5 clients. Which one of those families are you going to say by planning only for the average? Which one of those families are going to have to go back and apologize for saying, you know what, we looked at the averages and we just planned for the averages? Because one of those 5 couples is going to need more than just the average time of care need. So I always say, and we have here at One America, lifetime benefits is the way to put a true plan of care in place that gives the ultimate peace of mind. So peace of mind not only for the consumer or the client that is actually putting a plan in place that you're recommending for them, but also to you, especially if you're working with their retirement funds and that sort of thing, because essentially when they need the income for that needed care, where do they go for that? Well, they start dipping right into their retirement savings. And, if it's assets under management or whatever the case may be, they may be taking money right out of your pocket. And you'll never have to apologize to a client's family when you put a lifetime income stream in place for them to protect against any long-term care event. So if they're invading that principle, you only plan for the average. Now they're going right back to that portfolio and taking away from that. That could affect inheritances. That could be any kind of legacy planning that they have. So I think enough time spent on that 20% number. The last number on here is that 80% of care is provided at home, but it's also provided by those unpaid caregivers. Lots of times what happens is this could be people that failed the plan, or they could even have a plan, but early on in that claim period, they're going to have some family members maybe caring for them. Now, if you don't have a plan, what can happen here is you're really setting any of those family or friends around that are providing these care or providing this care for that individual, you're really setting them up in a very difficult position. And why do I say that? Well, first and foremost, now they're the caregivers, not the care managers. If there was a good plan of care in place to pay for any needed care, they can be the care managers. And that is certainly what you want to impart to some of these clients out there. Don't force your kids to take care of you or your friends or your neighbors or whatever. Let them be the care managers, not the caregivers. If they are the caregivers, what happens? The stress and the physical nature of caring for somebody else dwindles their health quicker. Not only that, if they've got to take time off from work, are they setting aside some of their retirement goals because they're now taking time away from work? Are they neglecting their own family, their own spouse? So don't put that on somebody. Make sure that your clients are really protected with a good plan of care in place. So if I continue to scroll down here, then we go to why long-term care protection. And we've got, again, 3 little options here that really talk about this, taking control of your care. And first and foremost, if they want to do that, and I strongly suggest that comes back to that kind of 80% are unpaid caregivers right from the get-go, and really leads into the last part here as well, protect the family. But maintaining control of their care by having a plan in place, they're not now relying on the government. They're not relying on their family to be the caregivers. The government's going to put you into, whatever nursing home that they can have available for you, but you lose control of that choice, that independence that will be afforded when they have a good plan, a long-term care plan in place. So most people want to stay at home as long as they can if they're needing care. But if they don't have a plan in place, they lose that control. Now they're relying on others or the government to really put them somewhere. So again, maintaining that independence is key. Preserving their assets, having that plan in place. Again, they're not invading their retirement savings that has been earmarked exactly for that. Maybe it's travel plans, maybe it's, different lifestyle that they've got. It could be just, a second home or ways of enjoying their retirement years over that time span. So that's earmarked for their retirement. That's why they saved it. But if they don't have that plan in place and they need to invade that, they're not preserving their assets. Through that as well, it could be, again, legacy plans, which I mentioned earlier. Maybe they've got a charity or some sort of association that they really like to support and that sort of thing. They could leave a legacy that way. They could leave it for the children. A number of things that if they don't protect those assets or preserve those assets, they're eating away at those costs by what is expense needed or income needed for the expenses of long-term care. And just like I said, protect your family. Don't make them be the caregivers. Let them be the care managers. All right, continuing down here, now we get into the annual cost of care, and this is really more on a national basis, but each one of these they can then click on. So in-home care services, and you can see exactly what that costs per year. Homemaker services over $51,000. A home health aide coming in to provide some care, over $52,000 per year. So how quickly does that start to dwindle or invade that retirement portfolio? Not only that, because again, that's where they wanted to receive care is in-home in most cases. But not only that, if they needed more care that is out there, community and assisted living facilities, adult daycare services, maybe they're at home, but they need to, while one of their adult children are working, they need to put them into an adult daycare center. And maybe that's only, twice a week or 3 times a week, but look what the cost of that is. Assisted living facilities, again, all right around that same cost of receiving in-home care. Now, that's just the average. There's some really nice assisted living facilities out there, and these costs can vary greatly when needing to go to an assisted living facility. If it's full-blown nursing home, you can see how quickly those costs skyrocket as well. For a semi-private room, over $90,000. I will say this, if you start to look at the private room, over $102,000. Look, we're working with our clients to help them plan. They are planners. That's why they're working with you in the first place. And that's why we're trying to protect them from the risks and the expenses of a long-term care event. If they need to go to a full-blown nursing facility, I can guarantee you they don't want to share a room. So they're going to be looking more for that private room settings. So just kind of know, here's the cost out there. I'm going to give you another resource here in just a minute that goes into this even further. But I wanted to explore those costs a little bit, and a great way to do this for those consumers out there. All right, next one down, LTC Protection. So what's available? Obviously, you probably know that there's been traditional styles of long-term care insurance that have been around for many, many years. I happen to actually I spent a good majority of my career working for a traditional carrier that was out there, and nothing wrong with those. I will never badmouth traditional long-term care insurance. But sometimes there's a different way to look at this. So you can look to these hybrid solutions. And what's great about the hybrid solutions is that we're really pairing it with a life insurance policy. Not necessarily that they need life insurance, but here's what it does. On the traditional long-term care side, it's generally a use it or lose it scenario, unless that traditional carrier had some sort of return of premium option. You don't find those too much out there this day and age, but when we combine it with a whole life plan like we do here at One America, what's great about these solutions is if they never need long-term care, or they never have long-term care expenditures and never need the income for that, what they do is we pass that death benefit on to their named beneficiaries, their heirs, their any of their legacy plans. So it really gets rid of probably one of the main objections that were out there with the traditional style or plans that were available for planning for long-term care expenditures. So I like to really talk about what we have here at One America in that regard. The other thing that has really reared its ugly head over the last, I'm going to say 5-8 years now is rate increases on those traditional plans. One of the great things with our asset care program at One America is that everything is built in. They're all guaranteed premiums, guaranteed LTC benefits, guaranteed cash values, guaranteed surrender values. Everything is known up front exactly what they're going to plan for, and those premiums will never change. So again, I like to focus and make sure that you're aware of exactly what Asset Care will afford any of those clients that you recommend our solutions to. So now let's talk details. And there's some questions that the consumers, as they're going through this, may have. And so how do we fund this type of plan? Well, here's the good news. There's a lot of ways that we can fund this. If they've got just general cash, that's one way that they can fund it. If they've got qualified dollars, so many portfolios this day and age are being saved on a qualified basis or a pre-tax basis. So your IRAs, your 401ks, 403bs, they're becoming very top heavy and very qualified fund rich. We've got a way at One America that we can use qualified funds, many non-qualified funds. Maybe it's cash value that they have in a life insurance plan that we just want to 1035 over. Maybe it's a non-qualified annuity that they have out there, and we can utilize the Pension Protection Act and get rid of much of the gain, or most all of the gain really, in those kind of contracts by 1035ing that over into one of our annuity care solutions here at One America. So it's a great way to get tax-free dollars from taxable gain. It doesn't have to be necessarily a single premium. Some people don't have that. They don't have that lump sum to put into these particular scenarios. We've got 5-pay, 10-pay, 20-pay, pay to age 95, which is really our annual pay, if you will. So there's a lot of ways that we can fund these types of plans out there. And again, work with the folks at Premier. They know all of these funding options, and they're happy to run those quote situations for you. Can it protect me and my spouse? That's another differentiator here with us at One America. We create plans on a second to die whole life basis. So not only do spouses share everything else, but why not share their long-term care plan as well? And what's great about this is now they're both having the same amount of benefits, the same cost for that versus maybe some of our competitors. Long-term care now in pricing has become very gender specific. And spouses don't necessarily like to have different benefits by paying the same amount of premium dollars, or don't like to pay more to get the same amount of benefits. With One America, we put that whole bucket together. They both share it and share the death benefit that comes with our whole life based chassis, and are afforded the same benefits as well. And by combining those, many times you're going to get more benefit dollars and more of a death benefit if they never need it. So we have created this joint plan structure that really a lot of people like. So what types of services are covered? Well, just like traditional plans, you've got your adult daycare, home health care, assisted living facility, hospice, nursing home. All of these levels of care are covered. So you're not lacking in anything there when you're talking about the options here at One America. How long will I be protected? And I kind of touched on this earlier with some of the statistics that we gave out there. We have a way, and it's unique to us in the hybrid space, that we have the option to cover them for lifetime or unlimited benefits. So not only can they create this great plan of care through the death benefit on the whole life base policy, but they can add a rider to these plans that will say, once you've exhausted that death benefit, that base policy, this rider will kick in and provide care for as long as you need. And in a joint scenario like I talked about, that would be the same for both of them. That gives the true peace of mind that I was talking about earlier. And then lastly, what happens if I never need care? And I kind of touched on this as well. Because we're creating this base policy, which is a whole life chassis, there's a death benefit that is there. If they never need it, they pass that on to their beneficiaries or charities or whatever legacy plans that they have. So really get rid of that use it or lose it scenario or objection that many clients like to focus on. Now, anytime you're working with a carrier and suggesting any long-term care services or plans, you want to make sure that you're working with a carrier that's very financially strong and makes sound decisions and has been in are really administering, creating, and paying claims on these types of plans. We've been doing this for over 30 years. As a matter of fact, our first asset care policy was sold the year that I graduated high school, which was 1988. So we've been doing this for over 30 years now and have a lot of experience. And again, the main thing is paying claims, being there when the clients need us most. Now that takes us to the last step. If you're just sending this generic version out to your clients, it comes to this kind of action step, if you will, ready to take the next step. Reach out to the financial professional who let you know this information, sent this information to you, whatever the case may be. Call them, reach out to them, answer that email. Well, I can take this a step further. You can have this generic one just like it is, or we can actually get some very basic information from you, and we can set you up with the last step that looks like this. Well, it wouldn't have my information on it, it would have your information. So more of a customized site here so that it makes it that much easier for them to know who to contact, who to call once they've looked through this information and want to really talk about long-term care needs. Now, this is a great little website to pass along, plant those seeds for those clients out there or even prospective clients. One of the biggest things that I hear about from many advisors and financial professionals that I work with is, okay, great. Now they've contacted me, but I don't really know how to start this conversation. And I'm going to follow this particular presentation up with a piece that's really just two simple questions. And these are just questions to really get things started here. And that first question is, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you may never need care, but if you did, how would that affect your family? Us sales professionals, probably some of the hardest things that we have to do is ask a question and then be quiet. But that's what I'm going to ask you to do here. Ask the question, listen for their answers, because that's exactly what they're trying to protect. That's where you can now, find those buying signals for you. So ask the question and wait for their answers. They may need a little bit of time. That's fine. Let them take that time. Don't fill that space. Question 2, and if you did need care, how would you pay for it? So pretty straightforward, very simple questions. But again, if we ask the question and then listen for the answers, you'll find out exactly what they want to protect. All right. With that, I'm going to get into a new tool that we have as well, which is a cost of care map here. And you can find, and I'm going to give you this this link here in just a minute as well, but it's just oneamerica.com/LTC-cost of care. So you get to this page, and first and foremost, nice, picture of the all the states out here. I always like to start here just looking at the national average. National average cost of care, almost $70,000. If you click on this detail button, it expands it, and it really breaks it down into exactly all 4 levels of care. Informal care, home care, assisted living facility, nursing home. Breaks it all down, gives you all the costs. If you have questions on what informal care is, home care, assisted living facility, you can hover over these little question marks. Now, another way, I think that's a nice way of showing it, but an even better way is just to come up to this little black eye information button. If you click that, it gives you a more lengthy description, maybe easier to read through than what I was showing you earlier. So now let's get back. I reside in Nebraska. Most people, when they come to a map like this, they'll pick the state that they reside. So I'm just going to choose Nebraska. So you can see the state average here is almost $70,000. I can break out the details again to see exactly what that is. Some of the neat things about this as well, though, is we don't have to necessarily just look at the state average. We've got a little drop down here that can look at the various metro areas. And I'm going to choose Lincoln, and you can see how much difference the average costs in Lincoln are $77,000. So again, it breaks down these costs. So really kind of a nice way to do this. Now, if you wanted to compare two different states, let me just click over here on Wisconsin. I'm going to pull the details back up for Lincoln. I'll open Wisconsin here. You know, you can see the differences between different states, different metro areas. I can click on, let's go to, let's see, how about Green Bay? You know, costs are a little bit less than the state average there, but you can do a great way of comparing different states. If you know your clients are going to retire to a different state, you may want to look at that state and find out what the costs are. Now, here's the great thing as well. All of these costs are in today's dollars, 2021. But we've got options to look at what it's going to cost in the future as well. Each one of these dots is a 10-year increment. Now, you may say, well, I don't need to go out 30 years. They're going to only, you know, they'll probably start needing care or whatever and say 15 years. You can slide anywhere on this little timeline, if you will, to find out exactly what the cost of care will be. That will just help any of those ways to put those long-term care plans in place. Now, with that, I wanted to bring up one thing here. I'm going to switch. Give me a second. I'm going to switch to some contact information to make sure that you've got the websites here as well. So bear with me just a moment. Let me pull that up. I think I can switch this out. Let's see, sharing. And we're going to show this one. All right. Let me just make sure that you're all seeing that. Nope, you're not seeing that. You're seeing my email. Let's get to the piece that I wanted to show here. Bear with me just one second. I apologize. This is why I don't like to jump around, but sometimes it's necessary. Okay, so you've got contact information here. I will always say Premier was kind enough to have me on today. They're very knowledgeable in our solutions. Please work with Katie and her team for any quote requests, any clients you want to discuss, that sort of thing. But I did have my information up here as well because I really wanted to show you right down here at the bottom, you'll see both of the consumer education website and the cost of care tool website as well. So I wanted to bring these two up for you. And if you would like that customized version of the consumer education website, certainly reach out to the folks at Premier again. Tell them that you would like that, and they'll put you in touch with me, and we'll get that customized version set up for you. So with that, Katie, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Perfect. I do have a couple questions going on here. One is, can you please put up the link again for your cost of care survey? Or give it.
Yes. So, yep. So let me give that to you here. You do see this slide, right? I just want to make sure that you do. I should maybe make it a little bit bigger.
I see your contact us slide.
Yeah. So at the very bottom here is the cost of care tool website, and then just above that, the consumer education website as well.
Okay, another question is, yes, this is being recorded, and do you have any additional marketing materials that you would recommend if someone was getting started with these products?
Yeah, I sure do. We've got a number of pieces. As a matter of fact, I can send those to Katie for, I'm going to send this, 2 questions flyer that I have. I wanted to make sure that we got that out to everybody, and I can put a couple extra pieces in there that pieces that I would strongly recommend when you're starting to look at our solutions? Good question.
Another one was state availability.
And so other than New York, I guess I'll never say never, but I can almost say never that we won't be in New York, but every other state has our asset care solutions. Well, the whole care solutions portfolio is available. So all states except New York.
Perfect. Well, you must have done such a good job because there's very few questions. So as always, if questions do come up, especially once we send out the marketing materials and all the copies of the webinar, just feel free to reach out. We are happy to help. If we don't know the answer, I am sure Brent would be happy to help us out as well. So actually, there are a couple more things. This is just asking if we can have the documents that Brent's sending. Yes, just to answer your questions, I'm getting 4 or 5 things regarding the recording. I will absolutely send out a copy of the recording. You actually end up with it twice, and all the marketing materials. So with that, Brent, thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. And everyone out there,
thank you, Katie.
I appreciate you guys taking the time, and I look forward to your calls. Guys, have a great day.